and you became one long before you understood what pillars do. Pillars don't crumble just because they're tired. Pillars don't fall apart just because they're hurting. Pillars hold the structure even when the builders walk away. And that's exactly who you became. Let me take you back to the moments you rarely talk about. The moments when your parents were arguing and you were the one who felt the tension in the air before anyone raised their voice. The moments when younger siblings ran to you for comfort, even though you yourself wanted to run away. The moments when you stayed awake while everyone slept, replaying conversations in your head, wondering how to keep the peace tomorrow. The moments when the house felt unsteady, but you stayed steady. That wasn't just maturity. That wasn't just personality. That was mantle. That was calling. That was God's hand resting on your shoulders, even when you were too young to know what anointing felt like. And yet, in the middle of all this weight, maybe you also felt something else. Something painful, something hidden, something no one seemed to notice. While you were carrying others, who carried you? While you were protecting your siblings, who protected you? While you were learning to be strong, who allowed you to be soft? While you were building emotional foundations for everyone else, who built one for you? The truth is painful. Often, firstborn daughters are expected to give what no one ever poured into them. Expected to lead without being led. Expected to nurture without being nurtured. Expected to heal others while healing themselves alone. And sometimes that loneliness grows deep. Sometimes it grows so deep that you learn to hide your feelings, hide your fears, hide your weaknesses. You learn to smile even when your chest feels heavy. You learn to say "I'm fine" even when your mind is tired. You learn to stay quiet even when something inside you is screaming for someone, anyone, to notice that you're hurting too. But God noticed, God saw, God recorded every tear, every sleepless night, every quiet sacrifice, every time you put your own needs aside because someone else needed help. Heaven has a book full of moments you thought no one cared about. And here's where the revelation begins. You didn't carry all that weight because you were the strongest. You carried it because you were chosen. You were positioned to carry generational wisdom. You were positioned to break generational patterns. You were positioned to guide people who didn't know how to guide themselves. You were positioned to see danger before others saw it. That's why your discernment is sharp. That's why your intuition is loud. That's why your spiritual battles began early. The enemy went after you young because he saw something on you that you had not yet discovered. He saw calling, he saw authority, he saw leadership, he saw purpose. And he attacked the first because the first is the most dangerous to him. Look at the Bible. God established a spiritual pattern. The first carries the blueprint. The first fruit belongs to him. The first stone sets the alignment. The firstborn carries the inheritance, not only physically, but spiritually. And even when culture pushed daughters aside, God lifted them up. Leah was overlooked by Jacob, but chosen by God to birth a kingly bloodline. Miriam was the one who watched over Moses and guarded destiny before Israel ever knew freedom. Deborah carried the courage of a warrior when men around her hesitated. Hannah birthed a prophet because she surrendered her firstborn to God. The widow in Zarephath received supernatural provision because she offered the first cake to Elijah. Do you see the pattern? God takes what is first and uses it to release something new. And that is why your life has felt like a battlefield at times. Because you weren't just born first, you were born to shift spiritual atmospheres. You were born to break cycles. You were born to open doors. You were born to carry wisdom. You were born to be a voice of clarity in a family full of confusion. You were born to carry strength in a family full of weakness. You were born to see through lies that others easily fall into. You were born to feel deeply so others could learn how to feel at all. You were born to intercede for people who don't even know they need prayer. You were born to stand in the gap. God trusted you with things he couldn't trust others with. Not because they are less loved, but because they are less prepared. You were the one with the spiritual sensitivity to catch the enemy's whispers before they turned into storms. You were the one with the emotional intelligence to read a room long before anyone spoke. You were the one with compassion deep enough to carry burdens others ignored. You were the one with endurance strong enough to keep going even when you were breaking inside. But being chosen doesn't mean being unbreakable. And this is where many firstborn daughters misunderstand themselves. You've spent so long being the strong one that you forgot strong people are allowed to struggle. You forgot leaders are allowed to rest. You forgot warriors are allowed to cry. You forgot pillars are allowed to be held up too. You forgot you don't always have to be okay, and that forgetting has cost you. It has silenced parts of you that deserved to speak. It has exhausted parts of you that deserved rest. It has hardened parts of you that deserved softness. But God has not forgotten those parts. The same God who positioned you first is now calling you to heal first, to rest first, to surrender first, to rediscover yourself first. Because when you heal, the family heals. When you rise, the family rises. When you break the old patterns, the generations behind you walk in freedom. That is the spiritual power of being firstborn, the spiritual reality that most people never see. And maybe you've asked yourself quietly, why me? Why did I have to go first? Why did I have to feel everything? Why did I have to be the one who carried so much? Let me answer gently but truthfully, because God trusted you. Because He placed something inside you that could survive storms others could not. Because He knew that even when life bruised you, you would still protect love. Because He knew that even when people misunderstood you, you would still show grace. Because He knew that even when you were overwhelmed, you would still find the strength to intercede. You were chosen because God saw not just who you were, but who you would become. The truth about firstborn daughters, the silent warriors God chose first. Let me say something that may shake you. Being the firstborn daughter is not just about being born first. It is about being called first. You were not chosen by accident. God did not place you first in the family order by random chance. He positioned you for something sacred, something heavy, something holy. Firstborn daughters carry weight, emotional weight, spiritual weight, generational weight. You felt pressure before you even had words for it. You became the helper before you understood boundaries. You grew up faster than you should have because something in your spirit knew you had to. And maybe you've wondered why. Why it felt like you had to carry more. Why it seemed like others got to be carefree, but you had to be careful. Why you were the one keeping the peace, managing the chaos, holding the family together when you were just a child, yourself. The answer isn't psychological, it's spiritual. The Bible speaks volumes about the firstborn, and though it often highlights sons in ancient times, God's hand has never been limited by culture. His patterns, His principles, His calling, they apply to you, firstborn daughter. You are not invisible, you are not forgotten, and you are certainly not average. You are a breaker of chains, you are a restorer of order, you are a seed planter for generations. You are the first to be tested because you are the first called to lead. And if you've ever felt overlooked, overwhelmed, or overburdened, you're about to find out you were never left out, you were set apart. You learned responsibility before you experienced childhood. You learned to read people's emotions before you ever learned to read books. You learned to calm storms in the living room before you could even spell the word peace. You became the backbone of the family while still trying to figure out who you were. When your parents struggled, you stepped in. When your siblings cried, you comforted them. When the house felt tense, you held your breath to keep the atmosphere stable. You absorbed the unspoken expectations of everyone around you. Nobody had to tell you to be strong. You simply felt you had to be. Nobody had to say, you're the one who must hold it together. Your soul already knew that chaos would collapse without you. You grew up with the invisible assignment of making sure everyone else was okay, even when you weren't. And here's the part that hurts. Because you carried the role so well, people forgot you were a child. People forgot you also needed comfort, protection, reassurance, tenderness, and love. They forgot that you needed someone to say, it's okay to cry, because you were too busy wiping everyone else's tears. They forgot you needed someone to guide you because you were too busy guiding others. They forgot you needed someone to protect you because you were too busy protecting everyone else. And in all that forgetting, something quiet happened inside you. You learned to disappear so others could feel supported. You learned to shrink so others could shine. You learned to silence your needs so others could feel heard. You learned to give and give and give until you didn't even know what it felt like to receive. But just because people forgot you, God didn't. He saw every moment. The moments where you held your younger siblings close while you cried silently behind them. The moments when you stayed awake listening for arguments so you could intervene before things got worse. The moments you swallowed hurt because there was no room for your feelings in the family chaos. The moments you were strong on the outside and breaking on the inside. God recorded every tear. God counted every sacrifice. God watched every burden you carried and said, I will use this, I will redeem this, I will anoint this. What you didn't know is that the role of the firstborn was never just biological, it was spiritual. In Scripture, the firstborn always carried more responsibility, more pressure, and often more attack. Look at Cain, the firstborn of all humanity, called to offer something holy to God. Look at Esau, the firstborn, who held a birthright representing spiritual inheritance. Look at the pattern God sets. The first always carries significance. The first sets direction. The first determines alignment. The firstborn was given leadership, intercession, authority, and inheritance. And culturally, maybe no one ever gave you those words. Maybe all you heard was, be strong, handle it, fix it, don't complain, just do it, you're the oldest, you should know better. But spiritually, what heaven was saying was something far different. You are my reference point. You are my vessel. You are my foundation. Through you, I will restore what others broke. Through you, I will plant what others neglected. Through you, I will shift what others surrendered to darkness. But being first often means being the first to walk through fire, the first to see things no child should see, the first to lose innocence early, the first to carry fear silently, the first to be wounded deeply, the first to break for the sake of others. And sometimes you didn't just carry your own pain, you carried your parents' pain, your siblings' pain, the emotional weather of the entire household. You became the emotional sponge of your family, soaking up storms that were never yours. That's why, even as an adult, you feel responsible for everyone's emotions. That's why you feel guilty when you say no. That's why you feel like you're failing when you can't fix something. That's why you feel exhausted in ways other people don't understand. You were trained, without permission, to carry more than a child should have ever carried. But let me tell you something with the authority of heaven. God never wasted a single tear you cried. He never wasted a single night you stayed awake, protecting your siblings. He never wasted a single argument you tried to stop. He never wasted a single moment you felt invisible. All of it was shaping someone who would have the spiritual backbone to stand against generational darkness. All of it was molding a warrior with the discernment to see danger before it appeared. All of it was developing a leader who could withstand storms that would break others. You are not weak because you are tired. You are strong because you are still standing. And maybe you've asked yourself, why me? Why do I feel everything so deeply? Why do I carry so much? Why do I have to be the strong one? And here's the truth. God gives heavy assignments to those he trusts deeply. When God places someone first, he equips them with a spirit that can endure, sense, discern, and intercede. You were given a mantle long before you understood it, a mantle of leadership, intercession, protection, spiritual sensitivity, and generational authority. You were not born into this position, you were sent into it. Sent to stop cycles, sent to break curses, sent to shift atmospheres, sent to protect destinies, sent to model resilience, sent to open spiritual doors for the ones who would come after you. And yet, because your role was holy, your battles were heavy. The enemy targeted you early because he knows something. What comes first influences what follows. If he can break the firstborn daughter, he can disrupt the whole family line. If he can silence her voice, he can suffocate the prayers that would have saved the household. If he can crush her spirit, he can stop a generation from rising. That is why the enemy fought you so fiercely. That is why your childhood felt like warfare. That is why your mind has battled exhaustion and doubt. That is why your heart has endured disappointment, betrayal, rejection, or emotional neglect. The enemy knew that if you ever discovered who you truly are, if you ever saw the power God placed within you, Hell's plans for your family would collapse. But guess what? You survived everything the enemy sent. You endured every storm. You carried weight that broke others. You healed wounds you never received an apology for. You walked through darkness and still protected the ones who hurt you. You prayed for people who never prayed for you. You made peace when others created war. You held the line when others walked away. And heaven has recorded every moment. Heaven has written your story with honor. You are not the forgot. 10-1, you are the chosen one. You are not the overlooked one. You are the anointed one. You are not the burden bearer. You are the atmosphere shifter. You are not the strong one because you had no choice. You are the strong one because your spirit was built with heaven's fire. And now, for the first time, you're beginning to see the truth. Your life was never random. Your birth order was never accidental. Your pain was never meaningless. Your strength was never ordinary. Everything you went through has been preparing you for what God is about to release through you. And as we move into the next part, we will go deeper, not into the pain behind your role, but into the spiritual authority you have because of it. We will explore how Jesus, the firstborn of all creation, redeems the firstborn daughter's wounds. We will uncover why hell fears your rising, and we will step into a prophetic call meant specifically for you. My sister, before this video ends, I want to speak directly to the warriors who feel this message in their bones. If this word touched your spirit, if it reminded you of who you truly are, if it awakened something God placed inside you long before anyone understood your calling, then don't leave quietly. Lift your voice in the comments and write, "I am the firstborn, and I am called." Share your story. Speak your truth. You never know who God will heal through your testimony. If you are a firstborn daughter or you love one, subscribe to Anointed Warrior right now. This channel isn't just a place to watch videos. This is a place to be strengthened, restored, and reminded of your divine identity. When you subscribe, turn on the notifications so you never miss a message heaven has prepared for you. And if you feel led, share this video with another firstborn daughter, your sister, your friend, your cousin, someone who has carried weight in silence for too long. Your share could be the moment she finally feels seen, understood, and called by God. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are anointed. So subscribe, comment, share, and stay connected to the movement God is building through His daughters. This is Anointed Warrior, and your breakthrough begins here.